Hello and welcome to episode 90 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me as always is Neil.
Hello, stranger.
Some lovely atmospheric noises in the back. It does feel...
As you mentioned my name, I thought I'd just drop a brush on the palette. I was like, oh, it's me.
Yeah, indeed. Before we go anywhere, I even answer that question, go check out Element Games for all your plastic crack, everything that's Games Workshop, everything that's airbrushing, everything that's hobby, toys. They had a nice, decent-sized stand at Salute. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And they also have the Artis Opus brushes we will talk about in a little minute as well. So this is the Kickstarter for top-quality brushes. You may have seen the video. If not, go to Kickstarter, search for Artis Opus, or if you just put in OPUS, Opus, it will come up. And you can see some random weirdo painters, can't you, on a video?
Yeah, there's some weird people on that video.
And there are indeed. Go check out Element. Go and do it via the link in the show notes or via the adverts on the website of theimperialtruth.com. Of course, they're adverts. If you go there with an ad blocker, they won't show up. Just as a reminder, it's easy to forget when you use an ad blocker for a lot of the time. And we get a kickback for that, which is wonderful. And thank you for everyone who does so. So yes, it does feel like it's been a long time. Apologies for this being late. I've moved into the new house. And the internet took they said they were going to do it 9 days after we moved in or something. That didn't work. Found out that actually it may be some of the phone connections in this place maybe don't work quite so well. But eventually set up, and then everything else has gone on as well. So I don't know what your life's been like the last few weeks, Neil, but mine's been fairly hectic.
Yeah, it feels ages since I spoke to you.
It does, yeah.
Well, we saw each other at Salute, which we'll probably come on to later.
Yeah.
But since we last recorded, I feel as though I was even getting my mic stand out to try when we said we'd record, and I was thinking, how does this go back together? And it seems like forever. Yeah, absolutely. It's
tricky one to keep going just with everything that's going on, and then even today, I've been I've been formatting the lists for London Heresy, and so I got into work, kind of got my laptop out, and was lucky enough that I could just sit and do a lot of this in between doing other bits of work. And I'm like, I did, maybe half of the loyalists lists that have been in, because of, it does take a little bit of time just because I've tweaked the way I was doing the formatting anyway for those few people who actually read the pack fully and followed the instructions.
No one reads the pack.
No, they don't. And the whole point is to try and put these up in the same format. So, I've asked for the easiest format for me to do that. When someone then chooses to do it a different way or sends in a battle scribe file, I've then got to break that all down to put in. So I've sent a lot of people messages saying, look, please just send it back the way it is in the pack, because it takes a heck of a long time. And sometimes you get list blindness when you're looking at that much stuff. You're like, can you even do that? What is this I'm looking at and all that jazz. And of course, with so many different rights of war changing things, characters changing options and all that stuff, that you almost kind of go blind and just like, I just need to copy information. And then you see something. And for me, it's the way, like the printout for Battle Scribe that people use to play the game. Like there's various levels of ways of printing out Battle Scribe. There's the one with all the stats on. I mean, the one after that where it's, it's like 9 of this unit plus 1 of this unit. Well, when you've got like 7 Terminators plus 1 Terminator, like captain or whatever, and I'm like, hold on, because the way my old programs or the way I do it is I'd just write, there are 8 Terminators. The captain has this.
Yes. Yeah, I know Battlescribe does do that. I remember sort of exporting lists before and getting quite confused of what I'd actually selected.
Yeah, and it's just, it doesn't sit right in my head. I'm like, all I want to know is the unit, and then any upgrades you've purchased. That's all I need to know. So when it then puts out, oh, they've all got chainsaws and bolt pistols, I'm like, this is just not needed. Because then you're thinking, was that an additional chainsaw sometimes? And and then some people, bless them, haven't put the individual points on. So I'm like, you know what? There's a point where I just have to put the lists up, and anyone who's submitted a list, I advise you go and check your list that's written down, because I found the odd mistake whilst doing. I'm not looking for mistakes, but I found the odd one while I'm doing this. I'm sure there are more. I'm sure there are issues where I've had to change the format so much I've made an error on someone's list as well, but they will go up at some point. Who knows when? Hopefully in a couple of days. And then I'll encourage people to look at the lists and to point out if anything is incorrect, and then also maybe just to get a little bit of chat going. There are some lists that are more towards the powerful end, and I think so far most of those have been in the loyalists, but with the way we're working at this time, that might not be as much of an issue. And so far, I think I've seen every Legion except for Blood Angels. I don't think I've seen a solo auxiliary list. I could be wrong. I don't think I've seen a pure or main militia list. I've seen militia allies.
One solo ox list going.
Is there? All right, cool. Maybe
my mate Matt's going, and that's what he's taking.
Oh yeah, maybe I just haven't got round to him yet on the list. And there's a couple of black shields on. There's one on each side at least. So yeah, I'm quite happy with like the spread of what we've got. As I say, some people. There was someone messaged me saying that they're fairly new, and I appear to have written a list that is quite hard, but it's probably all that he's got. And it's like, and he immediately said, I expect to be on the receiving end of a few of the special rules, and it's like, cool, that's fine, but there also might be some lists that deserve to face you. So yeah, there's all those
that's
things.
The thing, isn't it? If you do take one of those hard lists, be expected to go up against the reverse of other people having hard lists.
Yeah. It'll be nice once I've got them all up online to then sit and have a look through and see. And I'm going to encourage people to kind of point out their like the hardest 5 lists or what have you in the right manner. I really don't want, and there's been a bit of a history of this in a couple of events recently where people have like been trying to almost shame people for bringing something that they deem to be too powerful. That's not what I want, because as far as I'm concerned, it's like, so immediately let's pick out a name that he will admit. So Chris Gent's bringing roughly the same kind of list he bought last time, but he's also bringing a second one slightly different. And the way he plays that all jet bike Ravenwing list is, it's pretty well played. So I can nominate him early on and put him up against other people. I know that that's coming. I know that's going to be at the top. But I also I don't want people just to turn around and say, "Oh, I can't believe someone's bought that," because that's not what this is about. If that makes any sense. I lost track a little bit through that.
Yeah, well, like you said, sometimes there's always going to lists that are going to be harder than others. It's how you pair them up, and it's also about how you then, if someone's even with pair-ups doing abnormally well, then you sort of just a few little win game modifiers here and there, throw a few curveballs at them, see how they get on with it.
Yeah, the only thing I've kind of realised is with allowing people to bring 2 lists, and not everyone has, didn't expect them to, but with allowing people to bring 2 lists, there is a potential that it becomes harder to match up because of knowing what list they're going to bring. So I might end up having to dictate in a couple of circumstances that, say, traitors are attacking in this scenario if you have bought an attacking and a defending list. And I didn't really want to name them that way, but I think it's going to work out that way. Most people have actually written down attacking or defending. Then at least I can be sure that player X is going to use certain list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, you're trying to make sure that they don't suddenly switch it from the easy list to the hard list, or vice versa.
Yeah, and I don't think people will. I think hopefully the idea of those two lists will be kind of played through. And I know actually there are a lot of people coming to this event that I don't really know, but of the ones I do know, I know that I can approach most of them and say, look, mate, I want you to do X, and they're going to be, as long as I'm reasonable with them, they will be reasonable with me. So that's good to see. But it's 90 odd tickets sold, I think. I think we just crested 90. So there's somewhere between 90 and 180 lists to format, and I suspect it's going to be about the 140 mark.
Yeah, when you talk about numbers that big, something you think, wow, that is a lot of people to get through.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, it would have been. Now I've done a little bit of work to myself because I've ever so slightly, like, kind of, as I was doing it, changed the way I was doing it. But if everyone had copied that format, I could have just go copy, paste, change, and it might take me a minute or two a list. But some of these are taking 20 minutes. And when you've got over 100 lists, that's a lot of time. And it's frustrating because you're so clear, but it's also not unexpected that it happens. And that's the nature. Even sending your list in an attachment means I then have to open another window. Right, and then and it all adds on little bits and pieces. It's like, I know some people think it's a pain to write them out the way I want to write them out, but that's you are doing one or two lists, and then I have to do all of them. So it's like your little bit of pain to try and save my sanity. But we'll see. Maybe we'll have to work out a different way of doing it next time. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
I was thinking about this the other day. What's the benefit of not submitting lists? Is there
the benefit is
a few people talking about a few things where they've gone to and there has been no list submission.
Right.
I thought, is that not a better way?
Okay. Yes and no. So with no list submission, people can paint up to the night before and make decisions on what they're going to bring. That's can be really useful. With no list submission, you're free to try things out that little bit longer, and I, as an organizer, wouldn't have the stress of trying to corral people into getting things in. The major negative for no list submission is people bringing illegal lists. Now, there's a difference between having a list that is 3,002 points and then having a list where you fundamentally can't do something within the force you've taken. If it so happens that you turn up to a table, there's an expectation when you turn up to a table that you're all, even in the Heresy, this is an organised event. This is a narrative, but with this many players, it can't be a narrative in which every table is individual and that kind of thing.
Controlled narrative,
yeah, controlled.
Where it is one story flowing through the whole thing.
So it has to be a little bit more loose. Now, if you come up and you've bought your Blood Angels, what have you, Deep Strike and Blood Angels list, and then guys put down, you don't know to the morning he's got an armoured company, but actually he's also broken the rules of the armoured company by choosing stuff he's not normally allowed. Or say he's taking a right of war that doesn't allow allies, and then he's brought in allies which include something that is, suitably powerful. And then you get crushed in that game. There isn't, no matter how we're approaching this game as a narrative, it's very much kind of, it can leave a bit of salt in the wound. That it's like, I don't go and get smashed off, but at least let's approach this game, using the same set of rules. So that is
I'm just thinking of obviously all that work you go into to submit lists, and then all the politics that goes with that. Whereas something could get missed if you submit a list, and you're in that same similar sort of boat. It just seemed like a lot of work. And for me, as a hobbyist, I've said that I'm going to try and get to the Spartanax event.
Yeah.
And I think it was on Sunday, so I put up a post saying lists have got to be in tonight. And then I thought to myself, I don't even know what I'm going to get ready by that time. I do not know what I will have painted and what will be ready to play with. And there's got to be a Zone Mortalis.
Right, yeah.
List. And I've never even looked at the Zone Mortalis rules.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't even know what I'm going to have to take or what the restrictions are. And I suddenly thought, I might have to duck out of this purely for the fact of I don't know what I can take to this
right.
event.
Yeah, I appreciate that. At the end of the day, there is a cut-off point anyway. So I think having a list submission date, we're 2 weeks before 2.5, so 3 weeks almost before the event. The cut-off date would be the night before anyway. So if you are aiming to try and do something, you have got a cut-off point anyway, and you should be looking ahead. It's just been brought forward three weeks. The other thing that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look at what's coming to the event. So I want to have roughly an even number of traitors and loyalists. Now, if I can get that sorted before 9 o'clock or whatever it is on Saturday morning of the event, then that's an advantage, because that can be a real pain in the rear end. Secondly, I'm trying to find lists that I think are going to need to be paired up particularly well, whichever end of the scale they're on. You know, there's some people bringing some lists that are certainly more to the narrative, take the cool toys kind of approach than some of the others. So what potentially I can do is, if I can get them done in time, I can have a week or so at work in between doing stuff where I can highlight matchups that maybe I want to make happen to avoid stuff like that. So there's that kind of thing that I can do. Also, it means there is a copy of lists available. Now, it's not uncommon for people to go to these events and not bother to have their list in any form. Yeah, it's on my phone in Quartermaster. Do you want to keep handing your phone over to me so I can see what's in it, or do I just accept at face value you're bringing what you're bringing? Maybe you do. Maybe that's not a problem. But for some people, it's like, for sometimes it's, I don't want to keep asking you what's in your list. What's in, you put 6 rhinos down. You tell me what's in them. I can't remember what's in them now. That kind of thing. So there are pros and cons. It's the same as, it's similar to having, do you have a structured event or do you have a weekend of open gaming where each game feeds in based on points level, style of game, everything else. You've got to remember the environment for this one, the London Heresy. It's a convention. It is a lot of gamers in a small space, and it needs to be fairly regulated. So it does fit. If I don't think it would go down well if I turned around to the organisers and was like, yeah, we're just going to have an open weekend where people just roll in and play. Right, that doesn't fit.
Turn up, play with what you want. Unpainted, doesn't matter.
Yeah, maybe not that level, but even
this beer can is a Leviathan.
Yeah, could you imagine just like the 40k tournament at London GT is like hyper competitive, and that's cool. Could you imagine the organisers of that looking over at my tables where 30 people are playing a game, 20 are just sat around drinking, others are wandering around, and then they start up and someone's playing 3,000 points and someone's playing 1,000 points. It doesn't really fit the event. So I think that's a thing as well. Plus also, it's just different as well. You know what? If some events just say bring a list on the day, cool. That's cool. I'd also still like some events to have lists in. I want the scene in the world scene and local scenes, national scenes, to be varied within those scenes, because there's nothing worse than the homogenization of events. So it does happen somewhere. There have been people in the past who've been guilty of pushing like a format or league or rankings that have pushed people into something. I think people have got better at the way they do that now to allow more variety. But the last thing I want is to go to an event in May, go to an event in June, go to an event in October, and for them all to be the same. Yeah, I want to see a 3,000 point event.
I've been listening to quite a few podcasts, and they've been talking about different types of event they've gone to and things, and it's very interesting because the really narrative, smaller scale ones do sound really, really cool, and like really. But then I also do think that you've got to be very organised to play those, and I do think sometimes it's nice just to throw a list together and go and play some games.
Yeah,
and not have to think too much about all the story.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because a lot of them I've seen that. Oh yeah, and you've got to write your fluff and write your backstory for your character.
That's not for everyone.
I was like, that is so not me.
Exactly, that is not. And you end up getting like, well, there was this captain and he was flying along, and you know, and is having half-assed stuff better than having no stuff? That's a a question that is valid to ask. But as long as there are different events on the calendar, you will get the events. People will go to the events they're suited to, and that's a good thing. And this is why I hope that Element are going to run their tournament again this year, and that other people do run the odd tournament. It's not something I'm at all interested in, but if 20 people in an area want to play in a tournament and they don't have a tournament, they're going to go and play somewhere else, and that's going to be a frustration that will come out in the way they play the game. So, yes, the start of this podcast, we're 22 minutes in or something, and format's gone completely out the window. You know what? This is probably going to be a much shorter episode because we missed the deadline, so apologies for that. But we'll keep it free form, I think. So that's London Heresy. We'll talk about it.
So you've been working on the London Heresy.
Well, yeah, we will. I did a couple of hours hobby at work the other day and half an hour at home in preparation for the South Coast Grand Tournament, which I've had to scrap the plans for that because I've just got. I don't want to rush the hours in that I would need to do to get the army I want.
Are you doing your hour tracker thing?
Yeah, so I literally updated it today because I did the 2 and a bit hours last week and didn't note it. And I think I'm on 93 and it's 119 days. So it's taken a huge hit. Fortunately, this weekend I'm up at Sanctuary Gaming for CK Studios paint course, so that's 16 hours.
Oh, loads of hours.
Yeah, 16 hours in. But when I come back, I'm sitting in the recording studio now, Studio Truth. I've got the bookshelves all.
I think I saw that on Facebook. It does make me chuckle.
Yeah, I've got the bookshelves up, going through. Still got too many books. Going to go and sell some. I've got my big glass cabinet up, which was that so. About 3 or 4 times in the transportation and taking apart and rebuilding of that I almost gave it away for free. I've got to pull some of the bookshelves out to get back behind the flipping to get the power sorted out and stuff. It's like I've still got so much to do in this place that it's not really the hobby zone yet. So,
but you've got your own little place for it, which is quite cool.
Yeah, really useful. So my missus and her friend are in a different part of the house now. So I don't have to chuck them into the bedroom. They can sit outside.
No more coming through to get a glass of water.
No, definitely not.
I'm going to miss talking to her on the odd little, the little breaks that we have in between recording.
Yes, letting the listeners behind the screen there. Yeah, so it's getting there. Anyone who's kind of moved house in any serious way will know exactly what's going on. We've got a whole summer of sorting out the garden to do and all that kind of jazz, all those horrible little chores that you don't have when you got a flat. But we're getting there slowly. That has been and will continue to be a little bit of a barrier, but fingers crossed. It's also slowed me down in like a hobby drive. Because it's like, okay, right, I've got to do all that. Okay, I'll just sit. You know what? I'll just like chill out, play a little bit of computer, watch something, and you lose that drive to do so. But hopefully with the painting course, that will fire that up a bit. But you've got...
I do think I think a good painting course can really kick you on, because suddenly you feel as though I've got new skills to use, and I want to try this out, and I want to try that out, and suddenly you get all enthused to do things again.
Yeah, and I'm going to go up to... So on the Friday, I'm going to go up to Warhammer World a little bit beforehand. I'll probably still be checking lists at Warhammer World. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm sat in Bugman's doing that. And then... it's going to be great to see Kat and Caleb as well, and chat to them, and going up with James. He'll be up there as well, which is good. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But you've been plugging away at the old hobby recently.
Yes, I've been doing loads actually. So since we last recorded, let me think back. So we recorded, and I've been working on the Apothecary, which I still am working on. The Apothecary. I've been getting a bit more done, and I was getting trolled by Rob on Facebook, which I found quite funny, about how I hadn't put many posts up. So I replied to that. But I've been doing quite well. I've done the body, the backpack, one of the arms. I'm on the other arm now. I've got the head to do, and then he's pretty much done. And I've been working on the base detail as well. So trying to have like a cryo tank on the base. So I'm battling with resin at the moment, clear resin. And trying to get that and stuff. So yeah, that's fun. I'm using a bit of my brother-in-law's knowledge in the movie industry, so to get some proper casting going on with the resin. So I should be working with him on that at the weekend. So you've been doing all of that. I've been doing... Remember we spoke before about my hobby nights that I was doing with my friend who's painting up his army to come to the London Heresy?
Yeah.
So we've been doing those quite regularly on a Thursday night, and so I've been doing bits and pieces with him. We've been playing around with his custodes and his Solar Auxilia to get them all done. And I've got quite a few of the tiles, the Forge World scenic tiles. I've got the Castellum Stronghold, and it's been in my shed for God knows how many years now, probably like 4 years. And every time I have to get the lawnmower out, I have to take it out of the shed, put it on the roof, pull the lawnmower out, start lawnmower, mow the lawn, put the lawnmower back on, put the Castellum Stronghold on top of the lawnmower.
Right.
And I was cutting the grass for the first time when we had a bit of nice weather, and I thought, you know what, I'm fed up of getting this thing in and out. And I've been thinking for a long time that the Castellum Stronghold tile needs to be cut up into 4 bits.
Right, yeah.
Because you've got the 4 buildings that effectively are independent buildings that link up. And in-game, if you play with it and you destroy one of those buildings, it's handy if you could take one of those away, because suddenly you've got this bit of terrain that's sort of in the way. So I thought I got my hacksaw out and started hacking it apart, which was surprisingly easy with those tiles. I thought that resin might be a bit tough to cut through. Right, but it actually was quite soft. So I've hacked it up into 4 bits, well 5 bits, because the centre bit I've left in that sort of octagon shape.
Yeah.
And then I've painted one of them. I gave it a quick airbrush. Give it an airbrush, and I put did some pin washing on it, and did some dry brushing on it, and it looks quite nice. I'm quite pleased with it. So I'm going to try and get the rest of that painted up at some stage. So I'm feel as though I've been achieving all sorts of hobby goals of late, so I've been very pleased.
Awesome stuff. And this Apothecary's for Golden Demon?
Yes, he is. So I've got effectively a week and a bit left to get him done. So I'll get him done in time. I've worked out my I've worked out my time frame, and I think I text you that I said, well, how long are we going to record for? I'm 8 hours behind schedule. So I've sort of broken it down by... I break down the number of bits I've got to do, and then I work out the number of hours I want on each bit, and then work out the number of hours I've got left that I can actually paint for. So I've got a couple of bits where I'm probably going to have to go a little bit quicker than my usual speed.
Right.
But I'm sure I'll make it up somewhere along the line.
Some proper late nights ahead.
Yeah, I could be doing a few of the late nights where I'm up till 5 o'clock in the morning.
Ridiculous.
Getting painted done.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Well, yeah, that'll be good. I can't make it to Warhammer Fest this year, so I will have a shopping list for you. No, I'm going to be at the South Coast Grand Tournament. The first time in 10 years they couldn't get their regular date, and the only date they could get was the Warhammer Fest date. So I'm going down there for that. But I might have a shopping list for you for a couple of the Blood Bowl, the White Dwarf and the.
Oh yes, the dwarf guys. Yeah, they look cool.
Yeah, and we might as well actually move into the news, which is really weird because we're like 30 minutes in. We've got Alfarius being released, so that tried to make sure we had to record the Wednesday, I think, before that dropped. It was like, I've got to get it in now because of moving and everything else and making sure the episode's out. I was like, yeah, there's probably going to be a big release. Sure enough, Alfarius drops. It's like, how typical can it get? Well, it didn't quite drop, but out for pre-order. I mean, yeah, stunning. And I've seen a lot of
model,
people.
Great paint job as well. Really,
really good paint job.
Looks ace.
Yeah, very cool.
Ace.
So, that's going to make a lot of people very happy.
Who have we got left now, Primark wise? Who have we got to?
Johnson.
Done. Yeah. So, yes. Yeah.
Johnson. Sanguinius. Jagatai. Is that it? No. Yeah. Blimey. We've had Dawn.
Is there another? We have Dawn. Try to think if there's another. For some reason, I feel as though there's one we've forgotten.
There probably is. Should we go through the legions? So, Dark Angels, we haven't got. We know that.
Yeah.
Emperor's Children, we've got that. We got the Iron Warriors. Jagatai we haven't got. Russ we have got. Dawn we've got for the Fists. We got the Night Haunter. Then it's Sanguinius. I'm trying to remember now. My mind's going blank, and it's while we're recording. That is not good, is it? The 10th. Oh yes, some 10th guy. The best Primarch.
Yeah, the removable head Primarch.
Indeed. We've got Angron. We've got Guilliman. We've got Mortarion. Horus, Lorgar, Magnus. I've lost the order now. Don't worry, I've confused myself. Lorgar, Magnus, Alfarius, Vulcan. Yeah, Corax. Yeah. So we are left with a couple.
That's not bad going. Actually, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good actually. And well, I'm hoping that. At Fest we're hoping we're going to get the next 3 months of previews, but Scoria was in that cabinet, wasn't it? And it looked pretty much done. So I had someone kind of commented on one of my posts from the Weekender actually very recently and said, like, what's this model? And I'm like, yeah, that's Scoria. I wouldn't be surprised if he was not long after or at Fest.
Yes, that would sort of make sense, wouldn't it? Because
who knows?
Is the 3 month? Yeah, that would make sense. That'd be cool as well.
He's
going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's almost forgotten that he's coming out amongst all the Alfarius chat. But yeah, no, he looks phenomenal. I might have to pick him up, even though I don't have a Dark Mechanic in force per se. But I might have to invest in that one because it is pretty cool. And then on top of that, we had the Termite fully released, temporarily out of stock at the moment, unsurprisingly.
Surprise.
Yeah. The Aurochs, I can't remember if that was out beforehand or not.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, the Aurochs as well, which is a cracking little tank. I do love it.
I do love it, but I've got an issue with the Solar Auxilia now.
What?
Well, they've been doing their last chance stuff, haven't they?
Yeah.
Then I noticed that the character series Solar Auxilia, the guy on
the gurney,
the gurney, yes,
yeah,
went into that, and I was a bit sort of like, oh, that's a character series model that we're going into last chance to buy, which I was a bit sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
and then I found out that there was I noticed that some other Solar Auxilia stuff has gone completely. So the Rapier batteries.
Yeah, that was a probably bigger one. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, we're in a weird position now where they're discontinuing ranges from the Heresy but then also bringing out new models for that range.
Sure.
And I thought that's a bit of a weird position to be in. That's a bit of a sort of a, oh, do you want to get a solar auxiliary army? Better not. It's, you can't get all the models now. So those new models are pretty much for people that maybe have already got armies.
That is the threat. I suppose the thing is that the character series model was it's not one that you would think like you need. So
yeah, all the ones I'd want to lose, it'd be the one I'd want to lose first.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one I can almost understand. The rapier, obviously, they must not be selling any at all. That one's a little bit more concerning because that's a stock part of the army. I suppose you could do them another way. You could get Solar Auxilia to do that because. Yeah, you're right. It's because the Elysians have gone as well from 40k.
Yes. I mean, seeing the Elysians go, because I saw that first, and I thought, oh, that's a shame. I like those. But then I thought, it's one of those things. Yeah, I like them, but I wouldn't buy them.
No, and it's expensive.
One of those scenarios of, yeah, I can see why. Maybe they've got rid of them if they've been out for quite a few years.
Yeah,
haven't sold any in a long time yet. Obviously, got to be discontinued. But then when I saw the Auxilia, it made me sort of doubt what the plan was there, and yet made me a bit worried.
Yeah, but the Death Corps are still going, aren't they? So
are they still all available? Are they?
I believe so. Yes. So of all those three, kind of the Death Corps are the iconic ones. There's something to be said for that. So let me just all the Elysian stuff's I think sold out. I'm just having a look now. Hopefully you will hear less clicking and clattering on my mouse and keyboard. So I'm looking at Elysians are pretty much gone. Let's have a little look at the Death Corps as we're doing it. Man, looks stuff up on the internet. So the Death Rider Squadron are out of stock, but that might just be people going, oh, they're going to delete everything. But the other squads are all there. So, or a lot of the stuff anyway. That is good. That they're still around. I would say out of those three, I would expect the Death Corps to sell more. The Elysians, it's an expensive way because it's a lot of infantry to make an army, which are fairly specialised as well and haven't got. I mean, it was unfortunate that they went into Last Chance to Buy the same day. I think it was an audio came out about the Elysian drop troops. Timing wasn't great, but at the end of the day, a story about the Elysian drop troops probably wouldn't save the line. So, it's fairly relevant in that respect. The Solar Auxilia are going to be the one line in Heresy that are going to be harder maybe to keep up with, and therefore maybe they aren't selling a huge amount. I mean, they're on the new releases. They've bundled a load.
And then for me, I was like, obviously they're not going to sell as many of those as they are cool Space Marines because so many people in the Heresy want to play cool Space Marines.
Yeah,
I get that. But what made me think, well, this is a bit weird. We've got a new tank for them coming out, and then you're discontinuing parts of that line.
Yeah.
So it just made me think, well, that's a bit of a weird rationale that you're going to bring stuff out, but you're then also limiting people starting up.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And the big problem is if Forge World ever bring out an army which requires a number of troops like Solar Auxilia can do in terms of infantry, then my first thought will be, are enough people going to buy these? Are they going to stick around? Or do I ever bother investing in it in the first place?
Yeah.
And that hurts them in the long run. Whether this decision still had to be made that way or not, it will have an effect and probably should have an effect, if you're sensibly thinking about it, about a similar army. And maybe Forge World will move away from that kind of army going in the future. In the new releases for this week, they have got the Solar Auxilia Velataris Tertio, the Las Rifle Tertio, and the Strike Force all up for sale as a bundle. And the Velataris Tertio are out of stock, and the Strike Force is out of stock. I suspect that's the characters because I think the Ogrins and the other bits were still in stock. So they are pushing that. I hope they sell enough to keep it going. I know Games Workshop, they're still trying to get that other building sorted out for extra space and power and everything else, and maybe they need to. I don't know. I don't know enough about that situation, but you are right that it is a concern, and as a long-term gamer, I would definitely think twice about purchasing that kind of thing from them.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it with the paints, which was the last one thing we spoke about, and I thought to myself, do you know what? I can live with that because I'm not averse to mixing paint up, and I could mix it up from different ranges, and I would find a way of making my colour again, if that makes sense. I'd find a way of doing it, but I have no means of. If I wanted to, say, if I had wanted to start an army, and I thought, do you know what I want to do? It would instantly turn me off. Like, well, hold on, I can't. If I can't get everything that's been released for it, I'm not paying. I'm going to pay a ridiculously scamp price for something on eBay because you can no longer buy it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Turn me off.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, the only thing is you can go and buy the Space Marine Rapier packs. So you can buy those and then have some Solar Auxilia man in them. That is a way around it. Maybe that was part of their thinking. But it's interesting with, as you said, there seems to be a bit of a purge at Forge World of stuff. And I mean, we don't know enough from this end. That's the problem. But it's hard when we're not getting the releases as well. So,
Yeah, so we've got stuff going out the door, but not a lot coming in.
Yeah, and you look at the latest releases, so Necromunda stuff's gone up, and there are some absolutely fantastic miniatures. The Irius Slamgust Bounty Hunter, the one with the flat domed hat, and the las rifle type thing in front of him is such a stunning miniature. As is Belladonna and the dude with his dog. Absolutely stunning miniatures. But in terms of what is one of Forge World's major lines in the Heresy, Termite, Aurochs, Valdor, but we knew he was coming for a long time. Fest has got to come quickly so Alfarius can get up online. It's not a huge amount of excitement. That's the problem.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
We shall see on that front. But as you say, there is Fest coming up. I'll get your details. I'll try and get hold of Darren as well because I'm sure he'll be in all the seminars, and I suspect I'll know some people in the Black Library ones. Feels a bit weird not being there, really. A bit of a shame we couldn't pop up for the day, but hey ho, such is life. And actually, not long after Fest, we've got UK Games Expo as well. I'm not 100% sure we're going to get much Forge World stuff there. I think what we might get is the Games Workshop style kind of announcement session, like they did at Adepticon. I think we'll get that. There's a lot of people at the moment who are kind of like, okay, what are we going to hear about Adeptus Titanicus and things like that? And I'm still, I don't expect personally to hear anything about Adeptus Titanicus really for a few months, because I still think we're going to be on that November time slot, and therefore you're going to be looking at July, September before we even start to get an inkling about what's going on. Now I could be completely wrong, that'll be cool, but it seems to fit in my head. There have been some rumours going around. I think one of the rumour sites, I won't say which one, because I don't really want to give them the advertisement, but they were putting out stuff which seemed to be information that's roughly around anyway. Maybe some extrapolation on it, but so who knows? I mean, Adeptus Titanicus might really fire up the Heresy community this year. That might have to be the thing this year.
I'm hoping that, because they've spoken about Battlefleet Heresy, haven't they, and things like that. I'm hoping that maybe those sort of games G up the community a bit and get people sort of vibe it a bit, maybe.
It's a weird thing in that actually the community is doing quite well. The independent community has taken up the mantle, and there's big events going around. And the Geno 5.2, their latest Tarsis thing, they had to release the tickets in waves to try and make sure the system. I mean, I think that speaks volumes for
website.
Yeah, their that system is not set up to handle a number of people trying to order something at the same time. No, it's not. It seems strange that there isn't just a limited number, and once they're taken, maybe they all get put into whatever. And there's no point in them investing for the 2 or 3 times a year that they do that, and that's fair enough. Completely understand that, but they are selling out. People are. I'm going to Tom Stallard's event in Eastbourne, and I think Colin and Justin Hill are coming down. So, and Justin lives up in York, and he's coming down to Eastbourne for an event. People are willing to travel that far for what is essentially now a good-sized event of 20 odd players. And then with London hitting over 90. I've heard people asking about what's going on at Blood and Glory, who are coming from other systems and things like that as well. So, yeah, there is that, but we are still in this big lull as well. So it's a weird. It's one of the things of being involved in a game system like this, especially when the big brother of 40k is just getting stuff all the time. Age of Sigmar's getting some stunning stuff all the time, and now we've got Middle Earth and Specialist Games, steadily releasing bits and pieces as well. We're a bit like, oh, cool, they've held us this thing, once every 2 weeks we seem to be getting something. But who knows? We're obviously going to be building up to a new book starting next year as well. So what we're looking at, 9-10 months now away. That'll be round quickly, and I suspect we'll start to get some releases towards the end of the year in anticipation for that as well. So there is possibly the aspect of them building up to be ready for that. So we probably go on about it too much, so I do apologise if we do. But it's part of what we're up to, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. It's one bit that I was concerned about when I saw it. I think I spent a good half an hour checking out the Forge World website and then searching things online, and then starting thinking, well, what else has gone? And start panicking. Is it still here? Check. Yeah, it's still here.
Yeah,
is it still here? Yeah, yes.
And it is. I've seen people have discussions online. There's no right answer between announcing that things are going to move to Last Chance to Buy and just putting them up as Last Chance to Buy. The emails tend to come around a fair way after the things go up. I'm lucky in that at work I can usually be near a computer or my phone to check around 9 o'clock on a Friday morning to see what is new at Forge World. But if you wait for the email or what have you, sometimes that can take a while. But then if you announce something like that, then maybe everyone's waiting on their computer anyway, and then it's a mess of people just trying to shove stuff in their cart, because all of a sudden when something's going out of stock, people suddenly realise that they always did want to buy it. Which is a reaction.
Feeling of, do I need to buy it just in case?
Yeah, and then
I almost thought that about the character series one, because I've always had this thought that I would want to own every character series model.
Oh, don't get out of that system.
And I thought to myself, well, do I buy it now? If this one's going out, do I need to buy this to make sure I have my collection at the end? So
yeah, I appreciate that. You also, and it does drive up demand because of that. And then you get people saying, look, see, they were really popular. And it creates this kind of false image of how many people actually did support that army. And that happened with Specialist Games when it originally shut down a little bit. It was like, we're going to shut Specialist Games, come and buy your stuff. And then all of a sudden they were, see, you're selling loads of stuff. I was like, yeah, but we weren't for the year beforehand. And there were reasons for that. And but that, you can't always just look at what's happening at any given moment and come up with a clear picture of what's going on. But hey ho, in other news, shall we say, we are almost at the release of Wolfsbane which just seems crazy how long ago I read that. And Black Shield's Red 5, they're coming out in May. And we had the July releases from Black Library shown, which includes Primarch's Vulcan, Lord of Drakes. So I think this is David Guymer. I'm going to try and remember now. David Annadale, sorry, wrong David. So David Annadale's writing that one, so that'll, I'm sure, provoke some reactions. But we did also have the Twitter account for Black Librarian, I think it is, found a German site, whether it was Amazon or something like that, I don't know, with a load of releases for Games Workshop for the coming future, and some of them had already been announced, but by the nature of trying to translate the titles, it didn't always work. But we have Horus Heresy Primarch Series 10, Corax, The Lord of Shadows by Guy Haley. So that one, maybe the one after that. There's no... The timescales on these seem to suggest end of the year for some of these, or up to the end of the year, because these are German releases which tend to come after the English release by a few months, and these are talking about early next year. But this is all, how accurate it is, who knows. But we have Titan's Death by Guy, again at that same kind of time. And where are we? There was the other one I'm trying to remember. We know Games Workshop have talked about, they've released the cover for Slaves to Darkness by John French with the Primarchs all over it. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
I don't pay too much attention.
That's fair enough. That's cool.
I think I've briefly seen it.
That's cool. So you've got Angron and Sanguinius in full demon mode, and Perturabo's there, Horus, Lorgar, quite a few. Mortarion notable by his absence, which is cool because he is getting his book written by Jim Swallow. I just can't remember the title of it now, and I can't find it. How typical is that? That title, The Doom of the Death Guard, rough translation by Jim Swallow. So we are looking around maybe turn of the year, possibly, for that. We had it confirmed, or I think we had it confirmed, that would be the last book before the Battle for Terror starts. Now, the Battle for Terror includes the whole Sol system, so doesn't mean we're going to go straight into the siege.
How many books is going to be the Battle of Terror going to be?
Well,
they're not told us.
Well, this is the problem. You see, you don't know how many books it is up until just the siege. So it's a bit hard to tell. And things like Titans. So Titan's Bane. Someone has kind of made a point of kind of saying that Slaves to Darkness occurs post Titan's Bane, I believe, because they didn't originally plan to write a book on it. It was just going to be handled by Forge World in the Black Book, in that series of Black Books. But now we're going to get Titan's Death by Guy, which is obviously not something they had planned for, a year ago. So who knows? Who knows if that... I suspect they might aim for a trilogy of books just on the siege. The actual siege of Terra. There are pacification of Luna and Mars, other things that can be written about before that. So, your guess is as good as mine. And we could be looking at another...
No, I just wondered if there was an actual...
No.
If it had actually been delineated, there's going to be this many books.
No, they would be foolish to do that, and they've resisted doing that. The official line we've had from Laurie and a couple of other people is, we know the books we have planned. So we know a number of books. They refuse to rule out that something might upset that quite sensibly, like Titan's Bane. So, yeah.
Well, if someone comes along with a cracking idea for a book.
Yeah, or if they suddenly realise there is a story that needs to be told, that needs to be finished off, or what have you, then, or maybe if they just get to the siege and they've planned X number of books and I can't do it. This book is going to be too big. These things can happen. They can take on a life of their own. I don't know. They've had to make hard decisions on some characters will not get the completion story in the main set of Heresy novels, just because there are so many characters. So, and how many audio dramas are we going to get and what have you? I don't mind. That's not a criticism from me. I jumped in to the series with 2 feet and I'm going to follow it through. I find it quite exciting. We're getting there, and it's going to be a weird world without it.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking at my shelving unit, which I've got I've left a space for the next however many books are going to come, and then you look down at the all the limited editions I've got and the scripts and things like that, and then there's another page for the set of shelves for the Primarch novels. It's like wow, that's an investment. And that investment is not right for everyone, but for me, I'm happy with it. It's cool, and it's good, and it's been awesome. Loving it.
I'll wait till they start the Great Crusade series.
Yeah, I really don't think they will. The Great Crusade is... I know what you mean, but I know some people want the Great Crusade, but I'm like, okay, we'll go to this planet and kill these people, and we go to this planet and kill these people.
Yeah,
they didn't do
getting stopped.
No, they didn't really. When they go up against Orcs or Eldar, they generally didn't care about them. The whole point of the heresy is like these are brothers fighting each other. Whereas it's like, there's Orc number 1, there's Orc number 2. I'm not even that interested in a pacification of the Unification Wars. Sorry, it doesn't really hold the appeal to me. I think there are stories that would be interesting. Don't get me wrong, but I kind of don't want to know them. I want that to be a little bit mysterious. But B, I just think it'll be a bit more one-dimensional than the Heresy. I'd rather see them explore the Scouring, or there are a number of different periods of time that are talked about in the 40k lore, and they've got 10,000 years in which to pick a spot and write stories. But
I suppose that's the beauty of it, is when it does finish, although I don't think it will finish, they've then got this whole new scope of let's go out and try something cool. Let's go and do something new. Which could be a real shot in the arm for what they, because there's bound to be people out there thinking, do you know what, something new would really sort of G them up a bit.
Yeah, I think actually distancing themselves from the Heresy era would be great as well. And as far as I'm concerned, even the Unification Wars is too close. It's only a few hundred years where that ended. It's only a couple of hundred years between the ending of the Unification Wars, at the start of the Great Crusade, and the Heresy. So, it's not a huge amount of time. And I think although there is an audience who want that, I also think you might lose out on people who haven't got into the Heresy because of that. Now, what they showed with the Beast of Rises was there is potential. They didn't. The thought process was good. The execution, for various reasons, was slightly lacking. But the concept of a 12-book series, 1 a month, about a subject, utilising different authors, for me, I think that's a much more sensible, manageable thing for new people to get into. Because, could you imagine? It's hard now. People are like, I want to get into the Heresy, but look at all those stories. And I'm like, that is a commitment. Think Wheel of Time or Game of Thrones is a commitment. Well, Heresy is a commitment, particularly when you know that some of those books are less than stellar. So,
yeah. I tell you what sort of does that for me. I had a point where I was trying to catch up on reading the books.
Right.
And then I went through a phase of thinking, right, well, I don't have time to read them, so I'll try and listen to them on an audiobook. But I've even lost the will to try and do that now. So now I'm a case of, I just listen to some people talk about it and spoil it. And
Yes,
as long as I have an idea of what goes on in that book, I don't really need to read it. I've got too much painting to do. So,
I think there is a possibility now, though, of being able to pick and choose to go through the 50 books that are there and kind of go, these 3 or 5, and then I can skip this one and this one because actually I know from the way people talk that actually it's not relevant to the whole, the ongoing story in the same way that other stories are, things like that. So if you do it right, in inverted commas, you can choose to avoid a lot of stuff. A lot of the short stories aren't required reading. There might be some background in there that lead into other stories, but there are plenty that are just independent stories. Whether they're well written or value or not, they don't have a general an effect on your reading of the Heresy storyline. So you can do that as well, but hey ho. But if you were to sit down and just read through them. The other thing is as well, I read these as they came out, so I can read a Horus Heresy book, read something else, read a Horus Heresy book. To sit and go through, all right, I'm going to start a Horus Heresy 1. You would have to break it up, because at the end of the day, these are Space Marines fighting Space Marines. That's going to get tiresome after a while.
Yeah, I think definitely. Yeah, I remember when I was trying to read and catch them up. I remember thinking, I think I read a couple of Heresy ones and split out and read something else. And I think you do need to have that sort of, you don't want to get so absorbed into it that you start thinking you're a Space Marine.
Yeah. Yes, that way lies madness. Right. This is a really weird episode. I kind of quite enjoyed having a little chat, but it's very strange. We're just going to plough on. As we said, right.
One more thing I want to mention, actually.
Go for it.
News-ish. It's not really. It's probably not even news, because I bet people are going to say, "Yeah, we already knew that." The Partworks thing that that was semi-released and then cancelled. Did you get involved in that at all?
Right, it wasn't cancelled.
Postponed.
Well, it's been going. So what they do is they kind of test it out first and then start it out properly again. So it's done like that, shall we say. Yes, I've been... we got sponsored by the show. We talked about it. The idea was hopefully that me and Michael were going to talk a little bit more, and we still might pick out the odd one to go through. I've been receiving those. There's a lot of classic titles in those. Why do you ask?
Well, are you talking about the actual book ones?
The book ones. Oh, are you talking about
the model ones?
No, I'm talking about the book novels.
Well, the reason I say so is because you remember they put up some jobs recently on the job website, and they mentioned about looking for people for Partworks.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend who came over for hobby night, and I was talking to him about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, I signed up to that, and then I got an email saying that they were sort of not doing it, but they would let me know when they did, and when I did, that I'd get some free magazines because I'd already tried to support it." And I thought, that's cool. Then I looked at it, and the new model one was actually going to be run by the Hachette people. And I just wondered whether or not it was obviously then when GW had been advertising that they were doing it in-house, that actually they've sort of taken maybe the license back and are looking to do it in-house rather than third party.
Hachette run the other one as well. It's a licensing agreement. So Hachette run Partworks with permission from GW. And what the 3 roles were basically, as far as I recall, were to manage the contracts with them and to come up with ideas with Hachette. I don't think you'll see GW doing it in themselves.
It's just from when they mentioned on the thing saying Games Workshop Partworks.
Yeah, it was to work. It was to work on ideas and blurb to be used for Partworks. So it's essentially it was to come up with new licensing ideas, as far as I remember. So.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll have to see how that plays out. I mean, from my mate's email, it basically pretty much said that obviously they weren't pursuing it, or they couldn't take it any further. And then obviously that was around the sort of time that Games Workshop put up about those jobs for the Partworks piece that they were doing. Okay,
right. Well, yeah. Without having seen that, unfortunately, I can only comment so much. But from what I understand, there was a similar thing when the books came out. Was people said, right, we're stopping this, but when it starts up again, you will receive this and this. I heard various things, but I didn't have that myself, so I can't verify. But who knows? We'll soon find out if we see more Partworks stuff coming out. Then, cool. but Games Workshop system now is they finally really kind of locked on how to license their product rather than taking the risk themselves, or just not taking any risk, which is what they did, because when they took the risk themselves, it burnt them a little bit. But they've taken big steps in learning how to license. I think Christian Dunn was a major factor in that a while ago. So that allows more things to happen, that they've got better at that, which is why you've got...
the books part work run for? How long did they...
It's still going. There's 82 books, I think, 80 in the first kind of planned series. So, yeah, they're still going. There's quite a lot. Yeah, and say there's a lot of very classic books in there, which is quite cool. We will take a very quick break there, and we'll come back with some chat about Kickstarters. Well, Neil and I, as we mentioned earlier, did get to meet up at Salute. Did you get to wander around Salute, or were you chained to the Element Games booth?
I got in a bit early because I was part of the setup, sort of the crew, if that makes sense. So I had a little wander around early, which was cool, and I did sort of disappear off a couple of times. I don't think I explored it maybe as much as I would have if I'd gone there, bought a ticket and had drowned. I sort of did a quick cursory, probably a couple of laps, but I didn't really go to every stand and have a look at what was there. And I think I missed out some really cool. So a couple of stands I looked at from afar and thought, oh, that looks quite cool, but never really went in to sort of have a really good look.
Yeah, sure.
So I think I didn't do it justice, but it was very cool. It's the first time I've been to Salute, so it was quite a cool experience.
Yeah, no, it's for those who don't know, Salute is a war games show. It's one day. It's in London. It's been running a few years now, and it's not so much about the gaming. It's about producers of games coming and showing off their wares, showing off their games, running demos, things like that. But you're getting a lot of historical gaming, and then a lot of the European guys will pop over. Trying to think of the names of a couple now. There's a few kind of real kind of cult followed sculptors that do come over, and we have things like I'm trying to remember. There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff there, even this year, that was new. But there's a whole range of Discworld miniatures and stuff like that. Now, a lot of these, luckily for me, are metal miniatures, which means I can just avoid them, which is absolutely wonderful. But people like Gav was there with Open. I'm trying to remember the name of his system now. Anyone who follows Gav will know what he was there for. It's frustrating me. I should have looked it up. But yeah, there are a whole host of different gaming systems, fantasy, historical, sci-fi, from companies like Mantic and Games Workshop were there, and Forge World have a stand, all the way down, as say, to one guy and his girlfriend who make a small series of dwarf miniatures, say. So there's a real kind of thing, and it's not just miniatures either. There's terrain and everything else you can think of. I managed not. I think I tried to buy some stuff off Annie, the Dice Bag Lady, as she's known, and she didn't have the stock there, unfortunately, for various reasons. So I spent very little, which is good.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, which is good. I picked up an order I'd put in with Element at the event, and that was about it. But if you are a multi-gamer, there are lots of places. KR have a huge stand there, and you can go and fill boxes with foam to your heart's content. And of course, Forge World is always dangerous when it's right in front of your face. But you, as I say, you were there with Element, and you were there as part of the Artis Opus Kickstarter kind of promotion. Yeah. So,
yes, indeed.
What are we talking about with Artis Opus?
Okay, so I was contacted by a few people in the painting community, and they basically said to me, "Oh, look, we've got this idea that we want to promote. We want to create our own brand of brushes for miniature painting, what we do." So they contacted me and said, would I mind testing out some of these brushes? So it was a case of sending me brush heads and testing them out and seeing what I thought and giving feedback, etc. So that was sort of the first step, and then from there it became a case of them adding me to a list of painters that they would have, sort of affiliated painters, so that they would supply brushes and things. And basically, the one benefit I got is I got a load of free brushes. So obviously for me it was really another one of those things that I didn't have to think about anymore. So I was then been using these for about 4 or 5 months now, I think. Yeah, quite a while. So I've been painting with these brushes for quite some time, and obviously I've been given different sets, like different printed ones, etc. And the crew at Artis Opus, which is the Element guys and James from Seed Studios,
right? Yeah.
They've sort of created this Kickstarter. They've done a lot of research and development into getting these brushes made, like the handles from Germany and the heads from somewhere else and all this sort of stuff. So, they've done a lot of research and have created these brushes, which I would say they're the sort of top end brush. They are your
Winsor &
Newton Series 7 Plus sort of thing. So anyone that you speak to in the painting world, you would say, "Oh, what brush are you using?" They'd probably say, "Oh, Winsor & Newton Series 7. That has its own problems because of late their quality control's gone a bit funny, and I do it myself, and other painters might have to buy 2 or 3 brushes of a particular type and then send back the duff ones or throw away the duff ones. So it can be a bit tricky then to get yourself a decent brush. So these new ones have been really cool. They've been absolutely brilliant tips on them. I've been using them for different ones for over about 5 months, and I haven't had a single issue with any of their brushes. And some of the painters, because it's obviously not just me that's involved with this. You've got Andy Wardle, Angel Heredes, you've got Gareth Nichols, Rich Gray. So there's a real host of us, and some of us are possibly giving them the brushes a harder time than others. I think I'm quite a sort of delicate painter, but I do know some of the painters have been ragging them and putting them through their paces to see what they can do. And they have really held up to a lot of abuse, and have been a really good addition to my painting setup. So I've been working with them, and part of that was the release of the Kickstarter was aimed for Salute. So I got contacted by the Artis Opus guys, and they said, "Look, are you in London?" I live in London, so that's handy. And they said, "Around Salute?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Well, do you want to come up and meet all the other painters? We're going to be doing a bit of promotion and have a painters dinner." So we sort of all went up there and all hung out and had a few drinks, had something to eat, which was cool. Good to speak to the guys and see what it's always good to chat with other painters and see what's going on and all this sort of stuff. So we did all that on the Friday night, And then on the Saturday, I said, well, I don't mind popping into Salute and helping out, because I felt as though I've gone up there and drank their beer and ate their food, so I thought I might as well try and earn my keep. So I donned an Artis Opus t-shirt on the Saturday and stood in the Element stands and sort of just chatted to people about painting, and it was quite cool. It was quite fun talking to people and talking to people about painting and finding out the different, obviously all the different painters that are out there, what they do, how they do it. And feeling quite strange when obviously I'm talking to people on a level of painting. And I say, what do you paint? They go, mainly Napoleonics. And I go, about Napoleonics. So it was quite strange talking to all these, because it is a real diverse set of people at Salute. You don't get, it's not, when you go to a Golden Demon, you're seeing a lot of people that love GW. When you go to Salute, there's so many different people there.
There's a few people who look down on GW.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I was talking to a few people, and a few times I had to say, "So do you paint with acrylics?" Because you just don't know with more historical stuff. It could be oil based stuff or whatever. And it was really interesting. Spoke to a lot of people. Spoke to a lot of people about brushes, and spoke to them about what they use, how they use it, etc. And it was a really fun day. And I bumped into you, and I didn't know. I don't think I knew you were going. So when I saw you, I was like, "Oh, hi, Greg."
Yeah, well, in fact, I was speaking to Byron about that, just to get off the topic of the brushes for just a second. And he said, "Is this something you're interested in? Do you get anything? Do you get something out of this show?" And I'm like, "It's an hour and a half away." And that's a key thing, that living in the southeast of England, you don't get many of these kind of shows locally that you can just literally pop up to. I am interested in a lot of that stuff. I won't purchase it. I won't engage with it, but it's cool to look at. And the big thing for Salute is a lot of people go, and I will meet up with a lot of people. And GW run they have a social club within, for the staff, and they run a coach down to Salute. And this year there were quite a few people on that coach. So as I was wandering around, I saw Dominic from the Desire, the art team for Forge World, and Duncan and Peachy were walking around, and Nick Baton, and
that explains it.
And
I did wonder why there was so many.
Yeah, Natalie Slynn won one of the heavier metal speed paint sections.
Yeah, and Paul Norton took about 3 trophies away on the painting competition.
Yeah, so I think this year that people took up that offer of that coach to mosey on down, which is quite good. I was trying to run around and get a picture of Duncan or Peachy holding up someone else's paints, but by all accounts, Duncan enjoyed the fact that he wasn't recognised by a huge percentage of the people there, because as we say, there's huge variety down there. Lots of small companies, but a lot of people who play those various small companies, and they have no idea who these GW people are, and that's cool. That's great. It's nice to be out of that bubble a little bit. But yeah, Salute is good. I do enjoy it for that. But that's by. So these brushes, we'll get back onto that. So they're not cheap. We're looking at the Kickstarter. What is it, about £40 for the set?
£45 for the set of 4 with the brush soap and the box.
Is there? And there's a 5th brush as well that's not part of that.
And yes, you can buy the size 2 brush as an extra, and then they're doing loads of weird and wonderful add-ons as well. Dice, mugs.
Sure.
God knows what else. All sorts of bits and pieces. So there's plenty of stuff. I use the number 1 and the 00. I use a hell of a lot because they've got white handles, these brushes. At first I was like, oh, that's cool, nice white handle, and then now I've got dirty yellow marks all over the end of the handle.
Sure, yeah.
So the ones with the dirtiest marks on, obviously the ones I use the most, which are the 1 and the 00.
Yeah.
And the one thing I've been surprised at is because they have got such a fine point on them, I do better edge highlighting with the 1 than I used to do with my 000.
Yeah.
Because the point on them is so fine that you you don't actually need to go. It's actually harder to get a finer line as you go down the range. You can get a finer line with the tip of the 1 or the 2 than you can with the smaller brush.
Now, I want to be completely honest and fair with this. I suspect that as quantity of production goes up, that will be hard to maintain.
There could be that issue, and I spoke to James and a couple of the other people about what do they do in regards to customer service,
right?
Because you're going to have an issue where, because they're a handmade product, not everyone is going to be exactly the same. So you are going to get ones that maybe don't behave quite as well. And I spoke to them and said, well, what are you going to do about this? Are you going to do a Winsor Newton style of don't care, you bought the brush, jog on? Or are you going to do a Forge World, don't worry, you've got a problem with it, you let us know, we'll sort it out for you? And it's going to be much more of the customer focused sort of, trying to sort people's problems out for them than well, we don't care, you bought our brushes, move along, please, next customer.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's going to be, I mean, as you know, the Element guys, I mean, it's the first time I met Byron and Greg at the...
I don't think I've ever properly met Greg. I think I've been introduced to him a couple of times and not ever chatted to him.
And they are seriously switched on guys. We've spoken about Element games on the podcast 100 times, but speaking to them and then seeing how they run their operation, how efficiently they run it, how good they are with customers, standing on that stand and watch them talk to people and how they engage with people and how much they actually care about it all. And I thought, well, you're in the best hands. You're not with a faceless company or someone that is going to go, we don't care, we've got your money, move along. They really do care about people's hobby and how people get on with it. And talking to Byron about how, Element came to be, which was trying to get hold of a decent product, like Games Workshop product that was delivered quickly and efficiently, that no one could seem to do. You could buy it cheap, but you waited a long time to do it, or it never turned up. And how they basically said, no, we're gonna do something here. We're gonna create a website, and we will get things to people on the day we say we're going to. When they order something, we will dispatch it and get it to them as fast as possible. And seeing that firsthand with these brushes, because obviously, I think. We've got a little group where we talk about bits and pieces, and someone goes, "Oh, do you know what? I need another size 1. I've knackered my size 1," and within 10 minutes, Greg going, "Yeah, okay, that's in the post. Here's your tracking number." And I was like, well, we only just put that up. Everything's so quick, everything's run efficiently, and there's no sort of like, yeah, okay, we'll get around to that at some point. It's like. So I do feel confident that with the team behind it, you're not going to get the sort of negative customer experience that you could possibly experience elsewhere.
Sure, and I think it's fair to say as well that Guild Ball Steamforged Games, before they went to the Kickstarter, they ended up going to Element to help get them to help, particularly with distribution, but they became involved together before running that Kickstarter as well. So they're not new to Kickstarter either. They know, they've had whatever level of experience with that, which is always helpful. And when you're a company like that as well, and you're doing something on Kickstarter, then you've maybe got more at risk than if it's just, two blokes whose names you've never heard of. So there is that thing. For those who aren't aware, Kickstarter, most people are, but so Kickstarter is a crowdsourcing thing. You don't purchase. Now, this is the big thing that people in the war games industry sometimes forget. Kickstarter is not a purchase tool, even if many companies use it as a purchase tool. It's an investment. And that means that there is a risk, and that risk can be that you do not get your stuff, and that's happened in a number of cases, not a huge number of cases, but it has happened in a number of cases. Sometimes you just wait for your stuff, but as I say, it's important that people are aware of that, and so you do use Kickstarter at your risk. However, if you pick the people with reputation, then the chances are that will follow through, and I would have no issue backing. If I wanted these brushes, which I probably don't need, then I would have no issue backing this project. And there's a video on there that explains everything that's going on and goes through all the things. And as you said a number of names. I met Tommy Soul. Did you? Yes. Didn't know it till we were on Facebook later that night and got a new friend. I was like, there was a guy there, and I didn't realise who it was. But I know his name. So yeah, it was quite cool seeing Richard Gray and a few others as well, who I know passingly, should we say. But when you look at the names involved with the brushes, I think to get that many people to say they're good, then it must be a good product.
The one thing is, and people may know this. Obviously, Andy's involved, Andy Wardle.
Yeah,
and he does not pull any punches.
No, he can be.
He was very quick to absolutely rag the brushes, and I think he had a one or a two that started splitting slightly, and he said, "Look, I don't know if this is right." And then they said, "Right, send that back to us," and they took it straight back to the manufacturer and said, "Right, what's wrong with this? Why has this happened?"
Sure.
When people have been involved with this, there has not been anyone that has turned around and said, I don't really like these. I prefer my old ones."
Okay.
No one's sort of gone to that sort of.
Yeah. There's always a risk. There's always a risk, and I've heard people.
Yeah, there's always a risk where people could turn around and say, "Do you know what? I actually don't like them."
Yeah, there's also, I've heard people say this. I heard one person say this in relation to this product, but also anytime anyone's getting anything free, which is the view. Neil's been given these brushes free, and Richard and whoever, every single person involved in this project. And someone said, well, of course they're not going to say anything bad. They're getting all these brushes for free. And I'm like, well, knowing that these guys are painting for competition, they won't be putting up with these brushes if they don't think they are of the level required, because they just won't use them. But also, when you put your name on a video and your face on a video and talk about the quality of something, and if that thing is not up to that, then you lose any credibility you've got. And to have, one person, if a video had one person on it doing that, then maybe there's potential for it. If you have a number of faces who are well known, etc., then it becomes highly unlikely that they're just doing it because they've been asked to.
Oh, completely. And for me, there is always weight in the argument of, if you get something for free, you're probably going to enjoy it more than the thing you have to pay for. But there's also an element that, I've had frustrations with other brushes and other makes. So I've tried most of them, to be fair. I think the only one I haven't really tried much of is Broken Toad.
Right.
I've tried virtually every other brand there is, and I found a noticeable improvement in what I could achieve.
Sure.
With certain sizes. So for me, instantly, I was like, well, actually, I can do more now than I used to be able to do. I could achieve it still with a different brush, but it was harder work.
Yeah.
So it was a case of, I think I've got better and got quicker because I don't have to, try as hard now.
Yeah.
If I'm doing edge panels on a Marine, which is pretty much my MO, I can now probably do it in half the time with a size 1, where I used to then go down several different sizes. Sure. I might go to a 000 and sit there and really focus on getting that line as thin as possible.
Yeah.
And now I feel as though I can achieve that in a much shorter time frame with just one brush.
Yeah, and
so, there's always elements that if you can improve on anything. Like you said, competition paint, we're looking for the best.
Yeah.
And if it isn't the best, we'll probably throw it away.
Exactly. You're not going to risk your Golden Demon entry for this year to stick with a brush that you don't think is up to that task. And neither's Andy, and neither anyone else. I mean, that is a completely pointless task. So, that in the fact that these people are using these brushes is in and of itself a statement about the brushes. And it's not like, it's not like you're getting paid £1 million to do this, is it? It's not like Gillette have come up to you and said, go and tell everyone you use our razor. Right? Yeah, there's a fundamental difference between the two. And that, I say, everyone's got to make their own mind up on those things, but they look good in terms of what you can achieve with them if you are looking to improve. And I know a number of people who've jumped onto the Kickstarter and they funded very quickly. Again, that's an aspect of that is the fact that people trust them and everything else.
I think there was an element that it funded within the first couple of hours of Salute, I think.
Yeah.
I remember it funding and me walking over to one of the AO guys and saying, well, it's done now, can I go home?
Yeah.
It's funded, can I leave? You clearly don't need me anymore.
No.
But obviously since then they've been selling more and more sets. So I think I spoke to a buyer and I said, well, you're all set up now. He said, I think we're going to have to go and set up a tent at the manufacturer's plant and and camp out now for the next few months while we quality check them all. So it's going to be a lot of work still for them to do as well. My bit's the easy bit. Get some brushes, test them out, tell them what's good, tell them what's bad, and just paint away. So not difficult at all.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes. I put one on Facebook and Twitter. There is an affiliate link essentially for the Kickstarter as well. So if you do want to support the show and check those out, then go through the link either in the show notes or the one you find on Facebook, and that will take you to the Kickstarter page where you can explore it all. Kickstarter is quite an easy thing to use. Sometimes it can be a bit confusing about what to add on, but if you look in the comments section, or if you put $1 in, you can comment, and you can always withdraw that money before the final date. I've only got a few days. Ends on the 5th, I think. So we're right at the end of it. But you can still jump on there and get that stuff. So if you're interested, go and check it out. Awesome. Right. Yes. Well, let's just stop that there, and then we'll come back and close the show out. Well, there we go. Episode 90. A bit of a different one in the bag, but it's all good. It's all good. Neil's been painting away all the time we record on his Golden Demon entry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. He's been more verbose than maybe he has been in other times he's been leading up to a Golden Demon.
It's always the same, isn't it? Golden Demon comes around and everything has to go out the window.
Yeah, that's it. One track mind. Before we do go, I've been asked to shout out a couple of things. If you're in West Yorkshire, there is an event on the 1st of July called the War of the Roses. 3 2,500 point games. You can search for it on Facebook, and it's in the 30k global event calendar group, and the UK Artis Heresy events group is on Facebook as well. But head on up there. Essentially, it's a little bit different. So there's an overall team who'll get the War of the Roses Cup shield, and for those Yorkshire and Lancashire, isn't it? War of the Roses, all that jazz. I'm not 100% sure how they're dividing people up on that one, but if you're up that way, then you can go and you're free. Go and check them out, because that looks like that'll be quite cool. And then on top of that, just today I had a message from one of the guys who helps run the Nova Heresy events, and also the some of the Adepticon stuff as well. I think they do some other stuff. Busy boys. Essentially, getting the train and everything else for all these events costs them a fair amount of money. So they've basically trying to sell some T-shirts to get some money back in, recoup some fees. We put a link in the Facebook page, but or group, should I say, or both really. Mark put it up there. There's this Paint Nerd T-shirt, so it's a drop a bottle on a T-shirt with Paint Nerd written on it, and here we go. Let me see, £17.43 for a T-shirt. That's not too bad from one of these places, really. So it shows you that they're not trying to max out the amount of money they can make on these. But that's quite cool. But if you want to go and buy one of them, you're also helping support guys run their heresy events, which is pretty awesome.
Cool. Good way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've obviously had no issues with their design and everything else like I've had with paint companies, but there we go. It's a different story with T-shirt companies, shall I say. It's all part of the fun, as they say. Yep. We're building up, as I say, with London is round the corner. If you are coming to London, and please, and friends who are, just make sure they've checked everything and know the pack and know what's going on, know what time they've got to turn up would be nice. That's always a fun one.
Make sure they go to the right venue.
Go to the right venue, absolutely. Bring all them models, which I've been guilty of before. But anything
easily done, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You think you've got everything sorted, and suddenly you go, "Oh, I didn't bring that model."
Yeah, but at least that's your own fault, and you can handle that. If you turn up late, it causes problems for event organisers and all that kind of jazz. So, really looking forward to getting it on. It's going to be an experience, that is for sure. Yeah, well, we won't. So it's a couple of weekends' time, so it'll be the last episode of the month. So a couple of episodes' time, we'll actually be talking about that one. As I say, I'm off on the CK Studios paint group class, so we'll probably talk a little bit about that next episode. But yeah, fun times, busy times. Lots of other little stuff to get on with, and you'll have Golden Demon stuff to talk about soon as well, I'm sure. So
yes, I will. Yeah.
It's all good fun. If you do like what we're doing on the show and you want to support it, you can head over to Patreon and you can search for links in the show notes, or you can search for the Imperial Truth on that, or Greg Dan, and that can come up. And thank you for the couple of guys who've pledged, or whatever it is called on Patreon now, supporting us on Patreon the last couple of weeks. Greatly appreciated. And thanks to all you guys for listening and spreading the news. For all the first part of this show, we talked about the kind of trials and tribulations, shall we say, of podcasting and hobbying and everything else. We do enjoy it. It's worth what we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, would we? Whatever time it is at night while we're trying to get this done, I've got to be up in 6 hours. I don't know. We're gluttons for punishment, I think. Just doing it.
Sometimes I do think. Oh, one last thing I wanted to say actually before we close out.
Yeah.
The new White Dwarf has arrived.
Oh, you in it? I haven't got my copy yet.
Yes, okay. I'm in it finally.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll make sure I go and buy mine. I don't know if I get. Yeah, I need to.
If you have a White Dwarf, flick to page 48, and you will see my super secret model that we spoke about a lot on the podcast.
Yeah, so we could say what it is now, can't we? We can talk. Basically, it's a diorama competition for Golden Demon winners.
For the Golden Demon winners, it was an idea that they do a White Dwarf painting competition like they've done in the past. Where they've done that studio challenge all the studio members to paint a particular model or a particular theme, etc. So they did the same thing, but for Golden Demon winners. There's I think 7 or 8 entries in this White Dwarf, and I think they're doing some more in the next White Dwarf, and they'll all be up at Warhammer Fest for everyone to see.
Awesome.
They haven't mentioned how they're picking the winner yet, so that'll be interesting to find out. But I was speaking to some other people, other painting people, and apparently there was a lot of dropouts.
Oh, right, yeah. We talked about...
a lot of big names dropped out of this. So Soper dropped out, and Richard Gray dropped out, and all these other people sort of started but did not finish.
You were,
so I'm quite pleased that I got all the way to the end.
I thought you were going to be one of them. We did talk about that. So this was kind of put to them at the Winners' Day, and it was an interesting.
You were there, weren't you? Yes.
Yeah, it was. It was an interesting topic because it was like, well, this is a piece that can't be entered into a Golden Demon. So, like, do people try and fit it in their schedule? And there was a lot of kind of good intentions to try it, but obviously some of those good intentions kind of lost weight, and that's fair enough. And I think we both expected that, didn't we? To happen.
That's exactly what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
Everyone gets excited. There will probably be a load of people that start, but then would not finish. But it's interesting. I thought there would be a lot more. If they do this, there's about 7 adult entries in that. If they do another 7, in the next one there's only 14 entries. There was about 40 people, 50 people at that Winners' Day?
Yeah, how many? Yeah, I don't know if they were all winners, though. Probably half them winners.
Possibly.
Maybe,
so I did think
yeah.
there was actually quite a low turnout, but I did think the old, the deadlines always get people. It's always the sort of
deadlines, but also maybe, I don't know, it's one of those things. And I hate to say this because it sounds awful, but I hope you understand what I mean. So having your model in White Dwarf is like amazing, and particularly at the level you're painting at for a competition set for White Dwarf. But if that had been 3 years ago, it would be like, my model's in White Dwarf. And now they actually show a lot of models in White Dwarf.
Yeah, it's devalued, isn't it? It's not as prestige as it used to be.
No, it's not as prestige. Yeah, devalued is almost a harsh term for it, because at the end of the day, you are painting to such a level. But it's, you could have done a model photo, photographed it, sent it off to White Dwarf, and been in White Dwarf. And of course, it's not the same level as what you've done in terms of being a White Dwarf painting competition, but it's not. Yeah, that prestige is a little bit lessened. Not to say that these people don't deserve it, and it's a horrible way to say it, because I think it always sounds bad. And don't get me wrong, I wish I could paint like even the people who are just sending their models in have actually some stunning models. So it's not to devalue that, but it's not. It's much more accessible than it used to be.
Yes.
So
they are always looking for content, aren't they, to put in White Dwarf?
Absolutely.
So it's not. And when it I remember when my first Golden Demon entry was then featured in White Dwarf. It was a red letter day.
Yeah.
It was a rush out, go and buy. Had a phone call, I think, from the local store manager. Oh, Neil, guess what's in? It's your model. Oh, and I rushed over and bought my copy of White Dwarf, and it was all super exciting. And now, with all the Golden Demons and how they feature them, I remember I think one month I had 3 in a row.
Yeah,
and it was just like, oh, yeah, I'm in it again. Oh, I'm in it again. And it loses its prestige.
Yeah, and that's as I say, it does sound harsh, because let's face it, if I was to paint something that was good enough to get in White Dwarf, I'd be amazed. So, we're talking.
One day,
yeah, you
if
never know.
If you bought some new brushes, you would find that actually you would be able to.
Airbrushes. Yeah.
It's all about the airbrush.
Okay, yeah, cool. Excellent stuff. You never know. You never know. Awesome. Well, I think we're done. Just if you have got any feedback, Greg at theimperialtruth.com or Neil at theimperialtruth.com, and can find us on Twitter. Greg at Child of Fang, at Neil Paints everywhere.
Neil Paints on everything.
Yeah, we won't go through it all. It's been a long night. It's been a long week. We'll leave that there, unless you've got anything finally to add, Neil.
No, this is Studio Neil signing off from Studio Truth.
I'm going to leave that in just because it sounded so good. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.